that that my recording setup decided that it wanted to screw with me again.
Oh god.
Because due to a surprise update, sorry about that, folks. Due to a surprise update, OBS decided, oh, we're just going to shift this to default so nobody hears anything.
Mm. Oh gee.
Technology, it likes to give us the middle finger.
Right.
But even with that, I th I think with some of the races like elf or dwarf, there's already rough equivalents because those are well-worn motifs.
Mhm.
Um, Paracelian would be a bit of a challenge. Um, being that I don't exactly have a equivalent to that.
Mhm.
That
Just imagine like slime people, very much. Kind of a combination of slime people and elemental.
yeah,
Yeah, should be.
and a look looking at the list that I have, I don't really have a kind of slime folk.
Mhm.
Uh, I suppose I suppose I suppose if you wanted to I suppose if you wanted to stretch it, um, I was gonna bring up one of the more aquatic races that I have, which is the Hypello in the Ultimania guide,
Mhm.
but on on the other hand, the Hypello are just humanoid geckos, so it's not exactly a one to one. Uh,
Mhm. All right. Well, it doesn't have to be one to one. You can just like invent something new.
yeah, I think for them I would, though I would have to reinterpret the um, squeeze trait because Legend Edition isn't all that concerned with say the specifics of dungeon mapping or of areas in that sense.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's kind of a role play sort of thing.
mhm.
Yeah, so you can pretty much squeeze to see what's in the other side of the door as long as there is a keyhole or something like that.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's a possibility. The For me it's a matter of I would need to make sure that that it's able to able to be on the same playing field as other races. Uh,
Mm.
and I think the main one that that I'm thinking of is because of that slime like nature and the fact that the only way to seriously damage the main way to seriously damage them is damaging the holding gem.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yep.
I'd probably have it that they don't suffer the effects of criticals.
Mm, okay, that sounds interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, right. Hmm, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, I had thought about some sort of automatic regen, but that's veering a little bit too much,
Mhm.
and I think not suffering the effects of criticals is a decent middle ground. Um,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
and of course that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that they're immune to taking a beating. It's more of a question of how the paradox is how do you have somebody who has a degree of resiliency but but isn't isn't doing it too much. Uh,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
I think that's one way to do it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That sounds pretty decent, especially with in like TRPGs, they are usually a lot swingier than normal than console or like computer RPGs. So the can't be critical sort of like a trait or feat it can be quite useful. Yeah.
mhm. uh, Now, when it comes to Faunalian,
Hmm.
that one because of the mix of animal aspects,
Hmm.
there's quite a few potential equivalents that one could go with just based on one's choice. Because I have no shortage of beastman tribes that would be not far removed from that. Um,
Hmm. Yep.
like a an obvious entry would be the Mithra, but
Hmm.
like if somebody was going with aquatic, uh, that that could just as easily be the Hypello. Uh,
Yep.
and given the description, I think the most apt one to go with and the one that offers a similar level of flexibility would be Protector Beast, which was originally meant to be a stand-in for characters like Red 13 from Final Fantasy VII.
Yep.
Uh, but I did put in an optional feature if you wanted to have it that your protector beast character was a different species other than some sort of um lion like hybrid like what Red 13 was.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't remember where we picked the name Protector Beast, since what kind of animal Red 13 is never outright stated. Uh, but as far as the Floralian, uh, give the whole thing of them being plant folk. There's a few angles that can be done with that. Things like uh, things like the lilties, for example.
Mhm.
Uh, Obviously carrying the same name as the lilties from Crystal Chronicles.
Oh yeah, classic. It's yeah, it was quite fun when it was on GameCube.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Yeah, but it wasn't that popular. It isn't popular enough to get sequels.
no, it got something of a sequel with My Life as a King.
Yeah, I didn't play that, so. Yeah. Maybe I should check it out.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
and I will note Artificium is an easy parallel because I already have androids.
mhm. Yep.
Uh, and while the Artificium isn't exactly a robot, it's in that same ballpark of an artificial being.
Mhm. It's not really an artificial being. It is an actual object. It's that has gained life. It's kind of like a magical sort of thing, created by uh, the improbabilities of the universe. So their existence is kind of like a freak accident all the time, and part of the appeal, the character appeal, is to find their own purpose for existence. So that's narrative, uh, the narrative backbone of the life form. But in terms of the features, like combat features or whatever, I guess it's uh, I think it does open up to quite a lot of what it called uh, customization,
Hmm.
because uh, anything can be an artificial, from a stereo, from a kettle teapot. Um, this is a bit in the work, but there is an artificial of a book, and who's a chronicler, and also a uh, artificial of a sort, who are traveling together, and one is a hero and the other one is the chronicler of the other artificial, and it can be it opens up to quite a lot of like role play opportunities.
Why am I suddenly reminded of Gotrek and Felix?
What's that?
Gotrek and Felix are a couple of recurring characters in the Warhammer universe. Um, the Got Gotrek Gurnison is a dwarf slayer. A
Hmm.
slayer in Warhammer is a dwarf who, as a means of penance to for some sort of shame or some sort of dishonorable act, takes the slayer's oath, styles their hair into a mohawk using pig fat, and the idea is that they are supposed to go down in a blaze of glory against some strong foe as a means of penance. Problem is he's not very good at the whole dying part, because anything that goes up against him tends to get chopped to pieces. Uh, Felix, on the other hand, is someone who got roped into being his rememberer. You know, so somebody remembers his deeds if he goes. Uh, but because originally he was gonna back out of the thing, but dwarves take their oaths seriously, so the two of them have been stuck together. Uh, and it is very much a case where the two of them have traveled all over and gotten into many misadventures, but because one of them is a slayer and the other one was involved in an uprising, their reputation doesn't go beyond the equivalent of first level characters.
Right.
uh, and as Amov in the chat points out, worst enemies to Thanquil, the Grey Seer, a ratfolk who is the living example of failing upwards,
Yeah.
even to the point of sending sending what he thought was a human-looking letter to Gotrek and Felix, and both of them looked at it like, "This is a trap." Ah, screw it. Let's drag him into it anyways. But let's see. in terms of the Oni with their mask and the Master of Disguise things that they kind of have going with them.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
there's there's a few potential ones.
Mhm.
Uh,
Well, I guess you can do something like if an enemy wants to attack them, you can redirect it to somebody else within their reach or something like that.
I already have that with one of the
Oh,
jobs,
yeah.
that being through the Gray Man ability that the Covert Ops job has.
Hmm. Yep.
Uh,
Okay, interesting.
since the Covert Ops jobs is essentially the Turks in all but name,
Hmm.
and their whole thing is being the face in the crowd.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, but the funny thing is the Turks are actually very conspicuous.
well, not not always. I mean, Cisne was a very effective infiltrator, and even more so in in the remake. Um,
Mhm.
sometimes being conspicuous is kind of the point, because this is why I I bring up the Turks as an organization because they're just as much about being spies as being enforcers or anything in between. And sometimes even when doing espionage, sticking out is kind of the point.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're right. You're
You
right.
know,
Yeah. Sometimes
uniform.
when somebody is looking obviously look like the repairman, they would attract less attention.
Hmm. Or in some case, the having the big guy in the suit who is obviously meant to attract attention, so that nobody's thinking about the guy who is moving around behind the scenes.
Mm.
Uh, but in turn, that being said, there there is one race in the Ultimania guide that is very much focused on their masks that I do have, and that is the Gareth, which were the people who had those bird masks in FF12.
Mhm.
Uh, and now, granted, there it's not it's I would have to finagle some things and find a way to do things like the sigil mask and the like that
Mhm.
isn't replicating what the covert ops job does. Because
Right. Yeah.
one thing I did try to avoid is having effects that are replicating things like feats or job features.
Yep. That's right. Yeah. I guess the life forms in CBA it's going to take a bit of work because I think in Final Fantasy Ultimate Edition there even the species or race options have some sort of like combat utility or tactical utility, but in CBA, the quirks and life forms they have no combat use at all. They are just role play. They are just for role play and lots of like adventuring benefits. The uh, this is actually going back to earlier editions of D&D too. Even though I did not have the intention to replicate that, but it's like classes are classes, and what's it called? The skills. There were relatively newer additions that was not in the original D&D, and they are something separate to the class features itself. So there are not much ties between classes and skills, but actually, I think that worked to its advantage. So it gives each character a bit more like personality rather than tying the personality and the role play utility of a character to the class itself. So yeah.
Hmm. Uh, but when it comes to, and I can certainly see that. Um, a a big reason I didn't that that I have restricted the role play
Yeah, yeah.
advantages on.
It's not bad. I think it's great because it is a different solution for the same problem. Because I have the same problem, with the players not knowing how to role play because uh, with uh, by tying up the classes, uh, with certain type of role play, it just gives them a guideline, and it gives the other players predictability and how they are going to react to this other person who is playing a certain class and certain species or race.
Mhm.
So because you are as a general like effort in creating a party sort of like a cohesion, knowing the roles of the other party members, uh, restrictions uh, can be really useful.
Yeah.
Um, where I just put my restrictions somewhere else.
Hmm.
That's the thing.
Yeah. But when it comes to like shifting away from the life forms, uh,
Mhm,
when it comes to classes and disciplines, this is where things get things get potentially interesting. Uh, since there is there is the class and specialization you have with disciplines and classes. Although
mhm,
I've occasionally had to flip the terminology in my own head because of of my years of experience.
mhm,
But
yep,
I think looking at the different disciplines and their particular classes,
mhm,
as well as the more advanced stuff, there are equivalents that can be found.
yep,
Uh, Now, with some of them, they are a bit broader than the specificity that the job system I have requires, because of the fact that everybody is a combination of three or four jobs.
mhm,
Uh, so that and I made the conscious choice to divorce the the weapon and armor proficiency approach that you'd see in some job systems in
mhm,
from from the jobs in my system.
mhm,
And a big reason for doing that was I didn't want I was already going to be doing a tag based design when it came to weapons.
mhm,
So it because weapons are built on broad tags, it didn't make sense to have those kind of restrictions. but starting with the soldier, just the basic soldier, a lot of that would be covered by any martial character, period. But looking at the peacekeeper, I feel like an equivalent to that might be um, medic, especially with things like emergency medication. Actually, I take that back. Refreshing my memory with how emergency medication works, there's already an equivalent to that with the chemist. The chemist in my system is kind of the item master.
Yep, like Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah, tactics and a few others. I never set out to make any job entry a direct equivalent to one entry in the video games, but more of taking the spirit of it. And
Yep.
Anybody can use items, they're just better at using them. Whereas the medic was an attempt to fill a niche that I wasn't seeing filled in the video games, which was a non-magical healer / support. Like one of their big things is a type of healing they can do without having to spend much in the way of resources. But the more HP that they have compared to their maximum, the less effective it is. But like I'd say, and as far as something like identify threat, within Legend Edition, that would just be a knowledge check.
What? Oh yeah, yeah.
And as far as multi-strike, I have that as a feat. I have an equivalent multi-attack as a feat that you can push as far as you want, but each time you do it the risk of it completely blowing up in your face goes up. But when it comes to things like adaptive shot, that kind of thing I would never be able to have an equivalent to, because I don't have grid or zone combat. I just have the whole front and back row setup.
Right.
There've been a few people who've tried to put in grid combat because they wanted to do a tactics style campaign. But nobody's really stuck with doing it, because they realized, oh wait, I have to make so many changes, I basically have to reinvent the whole combat system. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody had tried to take the zone system you have in CBA and try to do the 5-foot grid setup.
Yeah, but it's we do have that sort of conversion. if we want to do a direct translation, one zone is 6 by 6 squares. But usually just to make things a lot easier, we just like make it like 4 by 4 or 3 by 3. So this that is enough to make like kind of like uh, a middle ground, a kind of a good middle ground.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that works.
Now,
Um, yeah, which means that we can pretty much recycle quite a lot of maps from the existing grids and everything like that. It just make it 4 by 4 or 6 by 6. It's up to them.
yeah. Now, when it comes to champion, I think that one there's already some angles I think can be done. Um,
Mhm.
like when it comes to the core stuff that they have, such as the attunements. Um, I think that the only thing that I'd really have to shift is just specifying what element, because I already do have like black magic separated into different elements. Same thing with blue
Mhm.
magic.
Right.
Uh, but when it comes when it comes to the line between Templar and Samurai,
Mhm.
which I think you had described it at one point as one of them being more defensive and the other being more offensive in
Uh,
terms of how they support.
Not really. They both uh, uh, they're both defensive. It's just that Templar increases the damage of attacks, and it means that characters with multi attacks benefit more from Templar, but Samurai increases the accuracy of the attack. So for characters that deals one big lump damage,
Mm-hmm.
they would benefit more from having a samurai sort of like a, a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. Though an obvious parallel I'm going to have is the paladin. Uh,
Mhm.
but I'd also say the sentinel,
Mhm.
which, yeah, sentinel was a role in FF13, but the approach that they do is being a aggressive defense, as as contradictory of a statement as that sounds.
Mhm.
Their
Mhm.
whole their whole thing is about reducing their damaging power to give themselves opportunities for their Overwatch system, as well as forcing targets to attack them, and having it that that they are more resilient against multi-target attacks.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I guess the thing is, it would be kind of a bit more helpful for me to like describe the intention of the disciplines and classes under the discipline, because it's the intention that is really uh, uh, that should really inform the design rather than translating the feats
Yeah.
and class abilities
Well,
one by one.
in that
Yeah.
case, what would the intent be with soldier? Just starting
Soldier,
from the top.
it's really easy. You just use item, you use gun, you use sword, and you are good at one of them. You can pretty much like drill yourself in one of those weapons when you have like a break, a short break or long break,
Mm-hmm.
and you know you can just attack and do damage with it. It's the simplest class
Mm-hmm.
for an entry level sort of like a discipline and class for players.
Yeah.
And the thing with the basic disciplines, they are easy. Because with my class design philosophy and or like a discipline design philosophy is to help the players think in a certain way in combat because of all the features rather than like negative reinforcement. You can't do this, you can't do that. It's a positive reinforcement. If you keep doing this, you will be rewarded with more efficiency. So, for example, the Paragon discipline that has the Paladin and also the Avenger, they gain their resources uh, by keeping an eye on your friends. So, if they get damaged or if their friends get damaged, they gain a token and then they can use those tokens to power their attacks. So it forces them to know which of their friends are getting hurt, uh, and if who needs help,
Mm-hmm.
and they can, it just helps the players role play the class and discipline itself. Uh, for the basic disciplines like soldiers, champion, and the martial artists, there are less of that requirement, so it is easier for people to pick up. Soldier, big, dumb, hit things hard.
Yeah.
Champion, you are a punching bag, and there is one partner that you help. This is the protection, pretty much the Templar or the samurai protection sort of like ability. Originally, we we had their protection to be extended to more than one party members, but it gets confusing who has what. In the end, we just keep it one party member. It just gets improved. You and your partner kick ass. That's it. And there are also other classes, other disciplines. The thaumaturgists, they use utility spells like orders and chaos, that sort of stuff. More like a healing or like a buff and debuff. And for the arcanists, they are the usual AOE magic sort of like stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And let's see, martial artists, yep, you hit more than once, multiple attack, because it kind of divide. You can divide the damage that you deal, and they work really well with Templars. So because they hit a lot of times, it means that they get more benefit from the Templar.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the martial artists. It's not just like a kung fu sort of guy. We also designed it to be more like Jackie Chan. They don't need to wear armor. They don't need to use weapon. So they have more space for toolkits. They can like sort of like fix the aircon or like fix the door or like mend fix the lever while they're fighting, all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, the uh, handler. They are the JoJo class pretty much, and the spirit and the creatures that they summon, they can use them to do things from a distance, so that you are safe from traps and all that sort of stuff. And in combat, they also create a bit of a front line, additional front line while they fight from the back.
Yep.
And let's see, that those are about the one, two, three, four, five,
Did you
six,
cover
and
did you cover brute or trickster?
yeah, there's Brute and Trickster. Well, Brute, you get hit, you get angry, you hit back harder, and you can it's either choosing to use your resources to reduce the damage that you take, or bank up your resources to hit back a really powerful attack. So another big dumb character, which feels great if you kind of accumulated a lot of like spirit tokens and use like just hit back with one really strong attack. And Trickster, they are the utility discipline. They can their special ability is to counter or cancel somebody's action. So they can throw their throwing knife or use a pebble to like um, interrupt somebody's uh, attack or special attack or a spell, something like that. And they can't use same sort of like action until the next round, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So each discipline has their own uses. Um, and if we go back to if we move on to the advanced disciplines, each of them have additional functions because multi-classing is encouraged in CBA. So you can like combine this class and that class from different disciplines, and you create your own combination pretty much. With Paragon, uh, as mentioned previously, you keep track of your party members who are damaged, and then you can use the resources for uh, you know for counterattack or to power your own special ability. Like with the paladin, uh, they don't the resources that they gain, they use it to give additional action to their party members. Um, while Avenger is powering their own counterattack, so they hit really hard. The more the enemies damage the party. The paladin seems lackluster. Just like give your friend additional action, but if you have a good party that it gives you more flexibility. The healer can heal, or the damage dealer can do more damage. So it gives you more flexibility, but you have less damaging ability, that sort of thing. The weapon master, of course, you can choose to have more powerful ranged attack, or you can multi-hit. You can have a multi-hit with your range attack or more powerful melee attack. It's a simple advanced class, the natural progression from soldier. And the let's see, martial arcanist is a combination of uh, spellcasting and martial artist. So imagine pretty much Avatar, Airbender, that sort of thing, but with a lot more utility. Uh, uh, you don't just have like your empty slot for additional toolkits. You can also use your magic as utility to help you achieve things. Uh, let's see, and the Mirage. This is one of the more unique classes that you can use for debuffs, and they are the only one that can damage MP. Because in CBA, each character have HP and MP, mind points. If you reduce the enemy's mind points to zero, it's almost the same as reducing that HP to zero. They collapse.
Yep. The good old MP kill straight out of Star Ocean 3.
Yep, something like that.
Oh, so given that, here's what I assess. Um,
Mhm,
when it comes to the equivalent of soldier, um,
mhm,
that I would say that is still too broad for any one of the jobs that I have, because the big dumb beat stick approach is,
mhm,
because of the whole three job setup. My system is outright discourages that. Um,
mhm.
is it possible? It's not very easy to make a equivalent to the basic fighter. I'm not saying the soldier is basic, but
Mhm.
in ter- in terms of that. Um,
But yeah, well, it is supposed to be basic as you guys can get.
hmm
Looking at the three job system in like Final Fantasy Legend Edition,
hmm
I think it can be just one of the jobs you pick. It doesn't have to translate one by one. You just
Oh,
uh, doesn't have to translate like perfectly. I
hmm
think it can be one of the stuff, one of the jobs that you can choose in
yeah.
your system.
But I would say rain ranger would be the ranger class would be not far removed from um, sniper, and peacekeeper wouldn't be too far removed from medic. Uh, as far as the champion, the big one that comes to mind is paladin.
Mhm.
Whether it be through Templar or through Samurai, that's the direction I see with that.
Mhm.
With Thaumaturgist, uh, there is a bit of I'd s- I would say to a certain extent white mage, uh, especially with the healer. With the cultist, I would say necromancer.
Mhm.
Uh, with possibly with a little bit of red mage's capstone, because red mage is the only one who can double cast. With
Mhm.
arcanist, with spellweaver would definitely be um, more akin to ravager, which may sound a bit odd. Um, Ravager is been nicknamed Spelldaka.
Nice.
The idea is that they don't use they don't take advantage of the strongest spells, but they're a way to cast at a higher rank than you're building, as long as RNG is on your side. They're the kind of person who, instead of casting one big spell, they would be the ones who would cast a bunch of smaller spells in a accuracy by volume kind of way.
Mhm.
I.e., I have a bullet with your name on it, and I'm gonna keep shooting until I find it.
Mhm.
Um, and when it when it comes to glamour guard, a lot of that
Mhm.
would actually fall into covert ops. Who one of their big things is creating a cover ID for themselves. Uh,
Yeah, actually, the idea for Glamour God is one of those classic magical girls, like one of those shoujos,
mhm.
like Cutie Honey or what's it called, Minky Momo, where the magical girls was still targeted to a female audience, and they actually get to change their clothes a lot.
Mhm. Uh, as far as martial artist, um,
Mhm.
I know it would be very tempting to say the equivalent of that would be the monk job that I have, but uh, I would actually say guardian.
Okay,
Uh, Guardian is all about building up and utilizing soul power.
nice.
Uh, and when it comes to things like when it comes to tangling rose, which which I think I half jokingly said at one point that I feel like anyone who plays Tangling Rose should wear a mask constantly. I.e.,
Right, yes.
uh,
Yes.
I would say that I don't have a job equivalent that has that, but there are certain feats that I have that would take advantage of that, like Fling, which lets you use a grapple attack to turn an enemy into an improvised ranged weapon.
Nice.
Uh, that but there's plenty of but improved grappling is more of a feat. Uh, and I will note when it comes to feats, I relegate feats to little tricks that don't overly favor one job. And because of the whole weapon divorcing thing I mentioned, um, feat it's one of those things where potentially anybody could be a physical or magical grappler.
Mm.
Uh, but I would say, but when it comes to brute, obviously I have berserker, so there is that. But also dervish. For berserker hits hard, dervish hits more, and the two of them are somewhat mutually exclusive to each other. Uh, when it comes to trickster, uh, I don't have bard per se, but what I have is entertainer, which was designed to be a kind of fusion of elements between bard and dancer, since I felt they that they were cutting from the same cloth anyways, and I didn't see a reason to split them into two. Uh, so instead of bard and dancer, you have entertainers, so that you don't have to have an instrument. You can have your instrument as a weapon if you want to. And one of the PCs in the one shot I did earlier today did exactly that. But given things like sharp remark, I'd say a better analogy for the bard in this case would be the mediator, which is very much a support job, all all about weaponizing dip diplomancy. Um, the channeler, whether it be phantasmancer or talismancer, is summoner in Legend Edition. Not only would they have that JoJo stand, which because of how I have companions work, um, is going to have the whole fighting in front or in the back, but also multiple ones. So imagine JoJo stands, but it's Pokemon.
Oh, yep. Well, that's pretty much the channeler. The talismancer is the Pokemon user, and the phantasmancer is the JoJo character.
Yeah. Um, the former you could you could stretch it a bit and go with engineer, which always has a mechanical buddy.
Mhm.
But when it comes to the advanced disciplines, uh, with du- with duelist, I'd say that leans more into sword saint.
Mhm.
Uh, and when it comes to countering, anyone can do that. And as far as Deadshot, I see that as akin to pro- probably sniper and weapon master. Uh, Weapon Master and Fighter as jobs are on two ends of a pendulum. The Weapon Master is really good at getting the most out of one particular weapon, whereas the Fighter is a walking arsenal. Uh, but when it comes to Commander, whether it be General or Warlord, they would fall into the category of General in my system. So they're both doing that lead from the front kind of approach, which is what it's built on. Maybe combine that with Chocobo Knight because of things like Battle Rider. Since you don't have to be on a Chocobo for Chocobo Knight, but it does carry the implication of the born in the saddle kind of character. With Paragon, as you already mentioned, pretty much Paladin and Dark Knight would fall into that category.
Yep.
With Sage, you already have Necromancer, and so do I. But when it comes to Esper, I find that that would be relatively easy to turn the illusionist I have into a psychic. A lot of illusion magic is downstream from that, and when illusionists cast magic, they do so in a way that's more akin to a trap card in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nice. Yep. Nice.
Because when they cast it, the spell doesn't automatically go off. It goes off whenever the condition that they've set up has been met. So you can have it that this spell is going to go off when that monster attacks. And as they develop, they can set more potential parameters for spells to go off. You know, if A happens, or B happens, or C happens, instead of if A happens. And as far as Martial Arcanist, whether through Glyph Hand or Arcane Body, what I see out of that is very much a combination of Monk and Magic Knight. With Magic Knight, the one of the big inspirations for how I designed it was the Magus class in Pathfinder. Mostly because instead of it just being a fighter who can cast, Magus was you're supposed to be fighting and casting at the same time to get the most out of it. You're not going to outfight a fighter, and you're not going to outcast a mage. You're not supposed to. You're supposed to be using both at the same time. They even have their own variant of dual wielding, with the assumption that you would have a weapon in one hand and a touch spell in the other. So the idea is, with the Magic Knight, you are using your attacks as your setup for your spells. But when it comes to Dominion, I think Dominion would fall into the category of Summoner, just as much as Channeler, but for different reasons. Especially, and I don't really have a magic item master, so things like infused weapon. There isn't exactly a parallel, but they are. But summoning an Eidolon is still in the category of summoner,
Mhm.
though you could make the argument of them being analogous to the yokai.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well,
now, yokai was originally a asterisk in Bravely Second, and originally I was going to have it as the controllable summon archetype, a la FF10.
mhm.
But then I re-examined the way Yoko looks in Bravely Second, and the idea of yokai channeling the eidolons into their bodies to create this fusion state. Not far removed from like Yuri from Shadow Hearts, entered into my
Mhm.
head, and that's what I went with. Another possibility is the Crown's Guard in Legend Edition, which has a astral item, essentially a magic weapon that levels up with them.
Nice. Yeah.
Uh, the idea is Crown's Guard and Kingsglaive are people who have sworn their services to some sort of god king and gotten certain blessings as a result.
Mhm.
Uh, they're also very, very good team players. But when it comes to assassin, oh, there's already a ninja, and oddly enough, the Hassassin equivalent might be akin to thief, since obviously, so I'm not doing positioning. There's a question of how does one do sneak attack.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
solution that I went with is sneak attack is all about weaponizing having a better initiative than others.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it is an attack that gets bonuses when the target is lower on the initiative count than you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's quite unique. That's a pretty good idea.
Mm. Uh, I figured that'd be a way to effectively handle the idea of sneak attack without using position.
Mm.
And when it comes to Mirage, uh, Puppeteer, I could see somebody using Engineer with, given the way it works.
Mhm.
And Illusionist, well, we have an Illusionist as a caster.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I do find kind of amusing when it comes to uh, when it came to equipment is some of the machine arms, or the fact that you have your own version of a gunblade in all but name.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mhm. Uh, and
Yeah.
obviously, I have an equivalent with that with the Gunbreaker, uh,
Mhm.
who the
Yeah.
gu-
I played that
Mhm.
class when I was playing FF14.
Yeah, the Gunbreaker is definitely for those who want to have the Gunblade, but I didn't limit it to just a blade, because right around that time, I had learned about the Festival of the Exploding Hammers in San Juan de la Vega, Mexico.
Mhm.
About how in as a celebration of San Juanito, locals will have these exploding hammers by basically attaching firecrackers to the heads of sledgehammers or the like, and just hitting the
Nice.
ground with them. And then a engineer decided to do what engineers do and create a hammer that had a hollowed out squib. It's just a blank that you load into the hammerhead, hit something, and the squib goes off. Uh, Squib, for those who don't know, is a bullet with no bullet. It's it has the powder, so it has the explosive effect as if you fired a bullet, but there's no bullet. It's just shell casing.
All right.
Uh,
Okay. All right. I think I had the wrong idea last time. I thought it was like a plastic bullet. No.
no, it the idea is to create the explosion and the light effect to as if you're firing a gun, but there's no
Mhm.
bullet.
Right.
Uh, and plastic bullets can be used, but it's still dangerous because uh, even getting shot with a beanbag is still going to be painful. Uh, like it's the reason that kind of thing is referred to as less lethal.
Right.
So the idea, and even with that doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's fully safe. It's just safer.
Mhm.
After all, it was a squib misfire that played a factor in the death of Brandon Lee.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and there was that whole thing with Baldwin on Rust where he thought he was firing a squib and it wasn't.
Okay.
But the but the central idea with the way I had gun arms work is that instead of the extra effort rule where you roll d4s based on how much higher your attack was over defense, you just have a bunch of d4s that you can spend to do a similar effect. Think of each d4 as one trigger pull. Because of that, you could you could go full ham with it, but then you'd have to spend a bit of time reloading. And it's not like you have a full speed loader. I mean, at most you can unload like half of the capacity, but you're still you're only getting one action around, so if you're spending that action reloading, that's still a pretty significant drain on your action economy.
Mm.
Uh, and I will I will admit when it came to attires having that particular bonus, a lot of that is handled through the magic item system, which does handle similar effects.
Mm.
Although I didn't put in I do have rules for airships and similar vehicles, but I didn't put in the core book because there wasn't enough space. Also, I was trying to figure out a way to do airships in a way that was still setting agnostic,
Mhm.
which wasn't as easy as it may have seemed. Then again, there's that age-old analogy of we we don't do this because because it is easy, but because we thought it was easy.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens all the time.
Oh yeah. Uh, it's also the reason I keep insisting to people, do not say how hard could it be.
Mm. Yes, just how much fun would it be?
But I think when it comes to the equivalent of the way magic works in Cloudbreaker, it would require a bit of a rejiggering of the spell system that I have,
Mhm.
because spell lists aren't divided by element, but rather by type of spellcaster in Legend Edition.
Mhm.
Ah, now there are subtypes. For example, there's the different elemental spells for black magic, as well as variable and non-elemental spells. Um, Variable would be things like Imperil, which inflicts a random element. Uh, which could be, so one round you could cast it and it does fire damage. Another round it does shadow damage. Another round it does wind damage. You never
Right.
know with with the spell.
Mhm. Mm. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I mean, they don't do a whole lot of damage, but they inflict an elemental damage and make them vulnerable to that type of damage for a certain amount of time. Whereas, non-elemental is your ruin, your bio, that kind of thing. Uh, but there's also the fact that spells have a kind of rank range, where higher tier spells have a higher floor, but potentially any spell can be cast at the highest rank of 9.
Mhm.
So that would be something I'd have to look into, as well as the fact that I don't really have a component requirement.
Yep.
Granted, the way you have the 3 ranks of the different spells isn't too far removed from what I have.
Mhm.
It's just there's also the matter of the casting check.
Right.
Because I didn't want to have people worry about how many MP they have to spend for a given spell,
Mhm.
and instead have it be more flexible,
Mhm.
or as well as make it so that somebody can have an idea on how much MP on how much MP a certain effect is going to cost just based on its minimum rank, rather than giving it a set MP cost.
Mhm.
Essentially turning spellcasting into a kind of game of chicken. Because
Mhm.
could you spend all that MP to guarantee you successfully cast that spell? Yes, but you've also just blown through all your MP.
Yep.
And obviously in your setup, running out of MP is
Mhm.
just as dangerous as running out of HP.
Yep.
But
Yeah, it's all about the give and take. If you take something from one side, you can improves things from another side. It's the whole idea of the players and the GM's mental bandwidth that we have to kind of manage, like the back end of a TTRPG design. It's like how difficult is it to remember or to play or to like a game master, which
Hmm.
is the uh, well, I'm using the general rule of like I think in short-term memory, people can remember about like 5 or to 7 things that they can remember. So that would be pretty much, my guideline. And 3 to 4 would be the best, in my opinion, if they only need to remember 3 to 4 things at once.
Hmm. But I did have to give a bit of a side eye over um ice magic requiring all six basic elements.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some people are thrown off by that, but it makes sense in the setting of CBA because arcane magic there is based on nature. And what is ice? Ice is winter, the death of all things. So once you have all the elements, you have a complete control of nature and you can kill it. That makes sense. And also, you need 6 elements. They make a six-pointed star, which looks like a snowflake.
Yep.
Yeah, so that is the rationale for making ice magic the most
Yeah.
powerful one.
Yeah. I just had to look. It's part of my gimmick of embodying the winter. So
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
Uh, on the other hand, uh, it is kind of amusing that both of us did come to the conclusion of doing cosmic magic instead of time.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Because
What do you mean time?
in I
Time magic, like gray magic from Final Fantasy or something?
yeah, I had reincarnated the time magic in F, and that's been the job that's shown up so many times in Final Fantasy as cosmic magic,
Ah,
and
right. Yeah.
expanding the idea to not just time but space time.
Right. Yep.
My rationale, in a half joking manner, was so in what way is time involved with dropping space rocks on people
Yeah.
or summoning a black hole?
Mhm.
But truth be told, the hardest type of magic to plan out was blue magic
Mhm.
because it has absolutely no consistency.
Yeah, you're just copying what the monsters can do.
Yeah, and when some blue magic spells are legally distinct versions of black magic spells like Blaze 14,
Yeah.
but blue magic is his whole thing is going all over the place, and that's kind of hard to design for
Mhm.
in a way that still feels as tight as everything else. Uh, when it came to, I mean, I did eventually figure it out, but just by looking at every single blue magic spell and going, okay, which one of these is has an equivalent black magic spell and which one doesn't. If it was a legally distinct version of a black magic spell, it got tossed. Like, because why have a spell that's doing the same effect as a black mage casting fire?
Mhm.
You know, that whole thing of different types of spellcasting traditions should not be operating under the exact same rules. Because it, in something like D&D, it always bugged me that clerics and wizards, mechanically speaking, both cast their spell in the exact same way.
Yeah.
Or, for that matter, I distinctly remember asking, why do sorcerers have a spell list?
Yeah.
Because the idea is that for them it's a natural talent. So I always felt that sorcerers should be throwing to should be the equivalent of someone who freestyles with Lego using the blue bucket we all had as kids, or a bartender who somehow throws a bunch of different drinks together to make something that you can actually handle without regretting everything.
Mhm. Yep.
Even if the combination makes absolutely no sense to anyone watching, because it makes no sense to the guy who's doing it either.
Mhm.
You know, the enemy can't know what we're doing if we don't know either.
Yeah.
Uh, but when it when it admittedly when it comes to things like the arcane glyphs, I don't have an equivalent to that, but it wouldn't be too hard to make something in that area, especially when there's feats like overcharge MP that let you start with a certain amount of temp MP.
Yep. But,
Um, and in terms of in terms of something like morale,
mhm.
that is something I don't have an equivalent to. If I were to try and integrate it, I'd probably crib some notes from the escalating damage penalty that was in Saga Edition, in Star Wars Saga Edition.
Mhm. Yeah. Or you can just like pretty much transplant it like as is and just
Hmm.
use morale.
Yeah, I think the only reason I didn't is I didn't want to have something that was too contextual. It's also the
Mhm.
reason why when I've attempted to write a mass combat system, I'm trying to figure out a way to
Mhm.
do so in a way that still has that agnosticism I'm trying to go for.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. It's yeah, but the morale it's like traditionally it's been part of like mass combat system in many like war games previously, but
Hmm.
um actually just like speaking from what I've known, like even when you are like a teenager, you're fighting in a gang, um, morale do really matter a lot, because once one the other side have lose a lot of the morale, they will just run,
Hmm.
and it's actually very much like this because it's usually they are kind of like skittish with actual real damaging people. They
Hmm.
don't want to actually kill people or maim them, put them in hospital. So they kind of need to build the morale until they are really angry enough to like smash the other person's head in.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's like that sort of thing. Even like in general, like public confrontation, it takes quite a lot of guts, or eventually until somebody pulls out the gun.
Hmm.
Yeah, that
And
sort of thing.
I'm I also I've had my fair share of scuffles and sometimes if I get dragged into one of them, I'm not willing to play fair. No,
Right, yeah. Oh, that's the best idea. Don't.
uh,
Yeah.
I think it. I think in one case I ended up channeling Butch Cassidy and just walking up to somebody and going right below the belt to just end things very quickly.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Mm. There is no benefit for anyone. There's no benefit in prolonged war. That is Sun Tzu saying. End it quick.
Yeah, and obviously, that's why sieges tend to be so expensive, and
Yeah.
well, there's no benefit to a prolonged war. I feel like that was borne out by so many battles in World War One.
Oh shit. Yeah. That is quite a disaster there.
Yep. Oh, sweet, man-made horrors beyond my comprehension.
Mm.
Uh, but of course the other thing that I could make jokes about is that that particular conflict being another case of Canada losing their damn minds and inventing half of the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Sad thing is, I'm only half joking.
Right.
Uh, I'm pretty sure some Canadians or Polish would instead call it the Geneva checklist.
Yeah.
But when it some I'm not sure if this has been brought up, but when it comes to the way you have the zone based setup with combat,
Mm.
um, how how do you tend to handle it to give a certain advantage to, say, pole arms, since
Pole arms. All right. Yeah. Pole arms. And spear and something. It is translated into additional like defense, though, or in D&D additional armor class,
hmm,
because you can maintain your distance with a pole arm, so you have better defense
hmm, um,
or armor class if you are using the D&D sort of term.
yep. If you listen real close, you can hear the Swiss laughing in the distance.
Right.
I'm sure you've seen the whole Pike Square in the past.
Right. Yep.
Uh, the thing that the I forget. I don't want to butcher the German, but it translated to bad war because whenever whenever they'd use the Pike Square against cavalry, the horses tend to lose.
Yeah. Definitely.
Uh, and so I can certainly see that, because nothing discourages a forward charge like very sharp spikes. But in that same vein, I did have to have a bit of a laugh that one of the that you could arm yourself with a ballista.
Mhm.
Uh, so forgive me if I just imagine someone carrying around one of those giant ballistas on wheels into a fight.
Yeah. Why not?
Uh, I mean, I'd say that's excessive, but because my own system is based on interpretation, there's nothing short of their GM saying no from stopping someone to say, "I attack with a building."
Yep. Yeah. I'm not sure if you know this title. Metal Max is an RPG with tanks.
Yeah, I think I've heard. I think I heard of it.
Yeah, it's a JRPG with tanks. So instead of, well, you often heard of like you have often see like Xenogear. You have the RPG with human characters and also mechs.
Mm.
In this one, you have human characters and tank. So like, this is for the tank aficionado. You can consider that the tanks to be mecha pretty much.
Yeah. So it's only a matter of time before the brain rot takes over and someone puts in the OMOS.
Right.
Because that thing is too stupid to exist, and yet it does.
Yep.
Also known as the Thing.
Mhm.
Because somebody said, let's take a tank and let's put 6 bazookas on it and see what happens when we fire all of them at once. I feel bad for anybody standing next to it.
Yep.
Because remember, backblast. But but with that said, I think that covers everything that I was going to. It didn't exactly go the direction that I thought, but it did result in interesting directions going into.
Yeah,
So,
pretty much the discussion, the dialectic really revealed more. It's a bit of a revelation. You kind of like always get new ideas just by talking about it with somebody.
mhm. But with that said, I do want to sincerely thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to venture all the way into time zone hell
Yeah,
and visit my monastery once again.
yeah, it's my pleasure. Love being here.
Mhm. And of course, anytime you see fit to return, and I have a feeling you'll be coming back next month
Hmm.
for that whole thing.
Yep,
The
happy
door is
to.
always open.
Yep,
As I often say around here, drinking is not mandatory, but it is encouraged.
cheers.
And of course, a sincere thanks goes out to everyone who took the time out of their schedule to come onto the show and enjoy the madness. And there'll be plenty more where that came from, as there always is here on the open bar of the internet. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.
Have a good one.